All right, so I'm gonna do a video for you and everybody else out there looking at my bikes, or the ones that I'm willing to sell at the moment. And my wife would say sell them all except for the one, but that'll probably never happen. I'll continue to get them. As you can see, I got several. I have a new one there. My one's not for sale, the red one here. It's my DRZ400 I just got. I have DRZ that I'd let go of, this guy. It's got a cool fairing kit on it. I actually have two of these that I built up over the years. So one of those I'd let go. And then I have a TW200. And then of course I got the famous DR350 and these XT225s. One of those just had a complete teardown motor here locally in Grand Junction and rebuild. That one's the one that's got more miles on the odometer. But like I said, I think I still have all the receipts from that, from the previous owner when they had that done. And then the other one has got low miles on it. And I just did a brand new carburetor on it. So I'll get you some up close video shots of that stuff. And there's a couple side panels that I got sitting around I haven't put back on from when I was messing with them last fall. And I just apologize for anybody watching this that's asked me over the last few months. I have not had a ton of time. We run a full shop here selling Jeep parts, and it is extremely consuming. And this is kind of a side hobby of mine, so it doesn't take precedent over the actual business. So without further ado, let me give you a little background on this DR350. I've had this for about 5 years. We've had pretty much myself on it, my father-in-law, my wife, friends. It's kind of been the loaner bike that we let people ride when they come in, and mainly because it's extremely forgiving. It's got a lot of power. It's a 6-speed gearbox, which is nice. So it still can go down the road. It's geared pretty low right now. So if you're gonna be using it for more street, I'd say throw a different sprocket on it. And it'd be a little bit more street friendly. Otherwise, it's really built for trail right now. Couple cool things that I did to this bike since I've had it is it was the original Enduro one, so it's got the full tack and everything on it. I have put, let's see if it's sitting on it. I might be off right now. Yeah, it is. So it's an electric start bike, and I'll have to figure out what my key is. But I also put the kickstart kit on it. So essentially what I did is I had two of these DR350s, and one of them was in a little bit better shape than the other one with this one. And so I slowly started pulling parts off of the one. And I do have a title for this one. It is street legal. And then one of the things I wanted to do was have a backup kickstart in case the battery ever died. And that's been a nice thing to have. Right now it's off, and I have it sitting somewhere. I think it's up on one of my toolboxes or whatnot. So that's what you're looking at for this guy. Tires are okay, not great. They were replaced 2 years ago. Didn't see a lot of use last year. I think we probably loaned it out a couple times, and anytime we did loan it out, it went with me. They rode with me alongside, so I could kind of keep an eye on everything. So otherwise, it's just a run-of-the-mill old DR350. It's super strong, super stout, fires right up. Probably could use a good carb cleaning. That's the other thing that I did on this one, is I put, since the other one was the off-road bike, I took off the kickstart and I also took off the carb. And the DR350s, you kind of get how do I say this? The electric start and the Enduro model's got some neat things, but the off-road model has some neat things as well. So we combined the two and essentially made the best of both worlds. So it's a little grimy right now. It needs to be cleaned up, but it does run like a champ. And that fuel tank is brand new. Literally, there's probably maybe 1 or 2 rides on it because the original over one I had a dual petcock system on it. Both sides had a petcock. I have no idea why they designed it that way. Anyway, we ran that tank for a while, but eventually had problems with it. And I went away from that, but didn't want to lose the capacity. So that's that guy. So that gives you that in a nutshell. Shift's good. Clutch is good on it. I probably have a new clutch for this one in a box. I always buy spare parts, and as you can see my counter over there. don't ever put them on. So there's gonna be a couple goodies that will come with this one if you're interested in taking that guy. My other two that are available, one of these, we'll keep one, is gonna be one of these XT225 Serows. So one thing to note about both of these bikes, these two or this one here, or that TW, for example, that 200 over there, although that's a kind of a different breed on its own. These are super low seats, so shorter riders like these bikes a lot more. I'm actually long-legged, and on that bike, we do long, you know, we'll do an 8-hour ride, and I'll get a little cramped on this one. My father-in-law doesn't find it as cramped up, and he's about the same height, but he tends to stand a little more than I do. So do know that if you're a tall rider, neither one of these bikes, if you're 6 foot plus, is probably going to be ideal. I would recommend going into a DRZ. Those are a little bit taller bikes. If you're wanting something like that. If you're wanting a shorter bike, I think both of these options is good. Obviously, the 350 is going to have a lot more power than the 200. The 200 is a good trail bike, especially for a beginner. Not that, you know, men don't ride these. I know they're super popular over in Japan and whatnot. But I do find that more often than not, women riders are the ones that like these XT225s just because they are so low to the ground. You can flat foot them really easily and whatnot. So let me give you a little bit of background on each of them. So this is the one that's got like 14,000 on the odometer. But that motor, and again, I have receipts, was rebuilt top to bottom, including the gearbox. So they did like a $2,000 build on it, and then I had picked it up. I have a title on that one, but they signed it goofy. So that's gonna, if that's something if you're gonna be using on property, it's not gonna be a big deal. But if you are street legalizing these guys, that's gonna be an issue on that one until that gets figured out. And I've been trying to contact the people I bought it from, but unfortunately it was a young girl and she had moved, I believe, out of the country. So we can try to go for that again. Otherwise it'll come with that and a bill of sale. And there's a couple states I can recommend dealing with that. Colorado is not a very easy state to deal with title mishaps, but so just giving you a forewarning about that. And then this guy here, I don't have a title at all on it. I bought it on a bill of sale, which I can provide free as well. So it's going to be a similar thing. If you're trying to legalize this guy and ride it on the street, you may want to look into that before. I don't want to shoot somebody the wrong way and have your your hopes up for it. But if you're going to be using it at a cabin or whatnot, then I'd say this one would be an ideal bike as well. So this guy has only got 3,351 miles, and those are accurate for the bike. The motor's all original on it. The only thing I've done on this one is I put a different style carb on it to get away from the vacuum style. This is kind of an old school CV style, simplistic carb and everything. So the tanks are loose on them just because I had them winterized, so we can put those back on and both of these will fire right up. Little 80, probably not in your interest, but that one's available as well. And preemptively bought that for my son, who's 2, thinking that he'll be riding it before long, and he's probably got 4 or 5 years before he's on that kind of bike. So that one's probably gonna go wayside too. TW200, I do have a title for this one, so you could legalize this one. We use it just as a trail rig. It's a cool bike. It's a fat wheel bike. If you're not used to riding one of these or never have, you definitely take some time getting used to it. I always say it kind of rides like you're riding on a square because it's actually does not want to tip over, which is cool. It's kind of a different feeling bike. This is what I consider a camp bike. It's not a dirt bike. It's totally different than a dirt bike. And if you ride it like a dirt bike, in my opinion, you're gonna get hurt on this bike. It's just not meant to ride hard. This is something you go park at camp, go down and fish on it, take it for hunting, depending on what you're doing with it and whatnot. So that bike runs excellent. It also is electric start as well, and yeah, it's got a backup kick on this guy. That was one of the early bikes that they did that. After that, they went all electric on those, so you couldn't get the backup on those anymore. And that's got a bent shifter lever, you can see there. Kind of got shifted out there. I got all that stuff over there. So no big deal. And those are just, you could bend it back, but I usually just, they're cheap enough, we throw a new one on. And then there's some couple crack stuff. I bought all these new. This was kind of like this when I got it, and it basically fell apart from vibration, the lights. So I bought a brand new one of these. Again, it's sitting over there. I just have not had a lot of time to go through. So this bike can get cleaned up substantially if it was something you're interested in. And then lastly, the DRZ400s. So I've been riding for 25 years, and my first bike I ever started on was an XR600. Went to a 650 and quickly realized that that is a very difficult bike to ride the kind of single tracks that I ride. So I wanted to find something as robust and reliable, and the DRZs really fit that bill. Both of these are DRZs. This one's tore down to kind of the frame here. It's not as, there's just no plastics on it, so it looks really naked, but I was redoing some things on it. I loaned it to a buddy of mine, and he bent the wheel on it. Don't ask me how. It's still holding the air fine, but it's got a good bend in that front. You can probably kind of see it the way it's sitting there. Brought it back to me like that, and of course I made him pay for a front wheel. I just haven't had a chance to put it on yet. So, but that bike runs. I've done everything. It's got the backup kickstart. I literally built this bike to do the transcontinental trail. It's got a full fairing on it. Every upgrade you can possibly do to a DRZ. It's got a recluse clutch on it. It's everything. So that bike I would, and I have titled that one and this one, both have clean Colorado titles in hand. So if you're a bigger rider, one of these would be good, but you'd have to let me put this one back. You can see all the parts, all my parts I just haven't had. I love working on them. I love tinkering with them, but unfortunately, again, I just don't have a ton of time in the winter months. In the summer months, we get a little slower, so I can work on these a little bit more and do the stuff my passion, which is my bike. So anyway, hopefully that does it for you, and that may either eliminate these bikes from your list of what you're looking at, or put them at the top. If you have any other questions, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. If you take a look at my YouTube channel, you'll see 20 years of Jeep parts. We have a good reputation for that, and part of the reason I do videos for everything I sell, it eliminates the what ifs. And if you can always go back to them later if you do end up with something that I've owned, and kind of see what we've done. And I'm sure I'm forgetting something on these as far as cool stuff we put on them or upgraded on them, but for the most part, they're pretty run-of-the-mill, plain Jane. I don't try to do too extreme stuff. I don't bore my bikes over unless absolutely necessarily. I really go after the reliability of the bikes. It's part of the reason I own the bikes you see in this garage. They're all the ones that are the most reliable out of all the brands and whatnot. So yeah, I appreciate your time. And again, thank you for your patience. If I can help you with anything else, or if you're looking at any other bike, feel free to, you can text or call me, or shoot me a message on Facebook or wherever else you found us, and we can go from there. Thanks a lot.